robots took my podcast, man.
I want the cast and crew on the ship within the hour.
No, Carl, you can't do this.
Tell them the studio pressured us into an early departure.
It's not ethical.
What are they gonna do, sue me? Huh? They can get in line. I'm not gonna let them kill my film.
We have 3 hours to find a new leading lady, or we're finished. There are thousands of actresses out of work in this city. Somewhere out there is a woman born to play this role. A woman who will journey into the heart of the unknown, towards a fateful meeting that changes everything.
I've come into possession of a map. An uncharted island. A place that was thought to exist only in myth. Wall! There's a wall ahead!
Until now. That's where I'm gonna shoot my picture.
You're feeling uneasy, Ann. The feeling's growing. It's washing over you. Scream, Ann! Scream for your life!
Herb, get the camera.
I'm taking it! Restero! Behind the wall!
What took her, Carl? You saw something.
Welcome to our podcast, The Robots Took My Podcast. I am Jordan.
And I am Anthony.
Anthony, what movie are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about the 2005 film King Kong by director Peter Jackson.
Yes.
Little known indie filmmaker Peter Jackson. Meet the Feebles,
Yeah. And 5 days later, I finished watching this movie.
Exactly. Yeah, I know.
This movie is actually longer than all 4 Lord of the Rings movies combined. Even I'm talking Hobbit, and I'm exaggerating on that part maybe, but you get what I'm talking about.
It's longer than everyone but Return of the King, I think.
I think so, honestly. And this is not even counting the credits and the slow motion shots and the reaction shots. No. I can almost hear an executive from 2005 at Universal just screaming, going, does it have to be this long? I mean, I know you're Peter Jackson.
It is a long movie, but it's just chock full of stuff, Jordan. There's all sorts of stuff going on.
True. That's the whole thing with this movie, and my issue with this movie at the same time is I don't hate this movie.
Well, let's just jump right into it, Jordan.
Let's just jump right in the water and talk about this King Kong 2005.
Well, let's talk about the fact as many people may know, this is a remake of an earlier movie.
Yes.
A 1976 Dino De Laurentiis, no, I'm kidding. A 1933 movie. Yeah. RKO Picture, famous movie. Probably in its own way, one of the best films ever made as far as influence goes, as far as wonder.
Absolutely. It's the movie that inspired almost every effects artist from Ray Harryhausen all the way to Star Wars to actually go into the movie business and make this kind of magic, because King Kong was magic, the original, when it came out in 1933. Nobody had ever seen anything like it. People thought it was a real character almost, because it just came alive on screen the way it did during the height of the Depression, right?
Yeah. And I know, Jordan, when I was a kid, and obviously this movie came out a few years before we were born.
Yeah, a few years.
Many decades before we were born. But I, as a kid, fell in love with this movie.
Same here.
Even though it was old and black and white, like that added to it for me. It feels like found footage or a documentary or something.
Yeah, I agree. It was one of those movies I would watch when I was homesick from school on video.
You were homesick from school a lot, I hear.
I was a sickly boy. No, I played hooky.
He had the rickets and scarlet fever and polio all at once. Anyway, no, but I love this film as a kid, and it's really stayed with me. And I think Peter Jackson shared that love. And this movie, in my opinion, is his love letter to his love of Kong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
His obsession.
This was after the success of Lord of the Rings. I think this is after Return of the King when they're finishing this up. But after the Lord of the Rings success, everyone in Hollywood wanted to be in bed with Peter Jackson. Let me rephrase that.
He's a sexy man, yes.
Every studio in Hollywood wanted to be in bed with Peter Jackson. They wanted Peter Jackson's next movie, whether it was a King Kong remake or Peter Jackson pissing beer on a canvas.
Yeah. And I mean, I know Universal approached him in the 90s because of some footage he'd shot right after The Frighteners, I hear.
It was that, but they didn't want to. I think they didn't want to finance it just yet because he wasn't Peter Jackson, you know.
And he wasn't the filmmaker that he would become. I mean, he cut his teeth on those Lord of the Rings, the trilogy. I mean, and that really, he had the money. Yeah. Money is one of the big issues with a film like this. You want to do it right. He wanted to do it right. You have to have just gobs of money to do the effects and everything. You can't cheap out on it.
Yeah.
You know, and this movie has an insane amount of effect sequences.
I think he wanted to break new ground after Gollum in Lord of the Rings and that the technology that his company Weta, because yes, Peter Jackson had come up with his own company, much like George Lucas for Lord of the Rings, that was very, very groundbreaking in its computer development for CG extras in the fight scenes that could even think for themselves almost. I'm not kidding here on that one, actually. Their computer technology, Weta's computer technology went above and beyond after Lord of the Rings, it seems.
Oh, yeah. And he reunites with Andrew Lesnie, who he filmed the Lord of the Rings movies with, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
And it's just a powerhouse. It's his company. It's the way he wants to do this. So no excuses. This is his work. This is it.
Yeah, and literally, it's like Universal gave him the world, and
no pun
after
intended.
Lord of the Rings, pretty much. I mean, comparison, but yeah, they give Peter Jackson money and the world, and more so, to do this King Kong remake. Once again, after Lord of the Rings success, because Peter Jackson doesn't have to pay for his lunch, dinner, drinks, or cocaine at any studio commissary or restaurant in the Los Angeles area anymore at this point. In fact, at one point, 2003, they changed the Hollywood sign to Peter Jackson's Wood, and Hollywood wanted that Jackson Wood. Okay. That came out wrong. Sorry.
I'm feeling some latent feelings here for Peter Jackson, but we'll push on past that.
I love Peter Jackson's Wood.
Well, I mean, they filmed a lot of this, I think, in New Zealand, so it's New Zealand.
They did.
Anyways, let's get into this movie. And yes. I'm going to judge this on the standard of what Peter Jackson's trying to do. You can't, King Kong is such a thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's a different time, a different era. But since this is his love letter, this is homage, as the French say. Yeah. Then we have to look at it through that lens, right?
And this is only the third. It's funny when you can think back now, because King Kong and Godzilla have become now a franchise, an extra kind of franchise for Universal Pictures.
Oh yeah. There's been, and with that whole monster universe, that whatever it's called, I forgot.
But I mean, they revived it in a way now to where it's not even weird for us to be talking about King Kong in general nowadays. That's the funny part about it all, you know.
Yeah. And we shan't speak about King Kong versus Godzilla, the remake.
Yeah,
at least the last.
But this was only the third. This was the first attempt at reviving it in the 21st century, so to speak. You know.
Yeah.
After only these other two attempts, or these, the original, obviously, its sequel, Son of Kong, and then not counting the Godzilla versus King Kong remake. Anyway,
I mean, Kong's a fixture in American and foreign film. Yeah. So anyway, let's get into this movie. So it begins with this classic title sequence. I love when they do this. It mimics the original RKO title sequence.
Yeah.
I love it. The title cards, awesome.
Very Art Deco.
And then we cut right to some monkeys at a zoo and a silly, silly period song by Al Jolson, Sitting on Top of the World, his version of that. And we get this montage of Depression era poverty interlaced with sort of humor, very Jackson-y sort of humor. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then we begin this whole first act of this movie is really focused on Ann Darrow, right? Who's an actress, a struggling actress in this stage play, true to the art, played by the charming, the beautiful, the talented, the essential Naomi Watts.
Yeah, UK actress from England. Actually, I was confused about that
because we can't hire American actors anymore, Jordan. Like we have to have.
They're taking our jobs. Like
half
they say
the
on South
cast
Park.
be
No,
British
sorry,
or Australian. Anyway, so and then she's a vaudeville performer. The theater's closing. Times are tough. We get it. And then she's in love with this, or loves the work of this playwright, Jack Driscoll.
Yeah.
And the theater closes. And then she's, someone gives her some advice, like this producer gives her advice, like, go to this place and just do what they say and don't think about it. And so she goes to this burlesque theater.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, and this is why the movie's 3 hours long. Meanwhile, we see Carl Denham, who is a movie director, and he got some, studio guys there, and they don't like his reels, and then he's...
Yeah, played by Jack Black as Carl Denham.
Yeah, Carl Denham as Jack Black And...
As Tenacious D as Jack Black as Carl Denham.
Tenacious D was more of a dramatic effort from Jack Black, I think. No, I'm kidding. And so Denham has, and his assistant is Colin Hanks. I forgot his name, buddy. Preston, whatever. Preston is his assistant. Anyway, he's this smarmy, shady director type.
Mm-hmm.
And he has this map of this mysterious island. And then he, finds out they're going to scrap his picture. And so he's desperate. And then
a little bit like the original, 1933 version still. Well, there's even a nod in one scene where he hears that when he's trying to get somebody to I'm jumping ahead.
No, you're fine. No.
Yeah, when he's trying to get somebody, we find out he's trying to get somebody, the actress that he's getting for the this safari thing, even though he's just split from the studio meeting from it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, they've run and they find out the actress that they're supposed to get has bowed out, so they need to find somebody to fit the same sequin dress.
Yeah, and who's the actress or one of they Myrna Loy? They mention every actress.
He even says Faye over at RKO, but no, she's busy over at RKO on a Cooper picture.
Yeah. Okay, let's pause on that. So King Kong exists in this universe. They must have been pissed. Whenever imagine they're about to release King Kong, and then this show comes at the end. But I was just
and then a for real King Kong comes in and blows the whole deal out of the water.
That's a movie right
afterward. There. Yeah, exactly. Where's this movie?
And so that's a bit too much on the nose. I get where Peter Jackson's going, but that's a bit too much.
It's a cute little wink, wink, nod. But yeah, if you think about the actual trajectory or the actual outcome, the conclusion of how it would actually play out, you're like, well, yeah, that means that the movie was, they were still making the movie while all this shit started happening, and they'd be like, oh, well, there goes the publicity.
There goes the whole picture right there. Yeah. But that's a weird thing. But in the original, they just start kind of on the ship, and Carl Denham already has this thing planned.
Yeah.
And then he's
already got the financing, everything, basically.
Yeah, he's just ready to go. And then
he's cheaping out on who he's going to take with him on that voyage in the old one, obviously.
Yeah.
In the old one, yes.
And Darrow
is a homeless actress, more so in the old one, I think.
I don't even think she's an actress. I think she's just homeless.
That's right. I think she's just a homeless girl who's just like a nobody, yeah.
And that's the whole thing with the 30s. It's just like this flower being plucked from the street, this, rags to riches story that we need in the Depression. And then here...
Yeah, I heard in the original, she was based on a real incident that happened where an actual producer had plucked some girl off the street just the same.
Yeah.
to become a star later on. Anyway,
And so here it's similar, but she's an act. And I get her motivation. I like that. We just spend too much time there.
yeah,
Anne she's at the burlesque theater, and I guess Carl Denham's going to a burlesque theater. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
And
Talk
so
about character development already. It's just like, geez, Louise, Peter Jackson and company. You know,
yeah. So he sees what was he doing there anyway? So he sees her in the window, and she decides not to go in, and then we kind of get something similar to the original. And basically, she's stealing an apple, same as the original, and but he comes in and like buys her coffees, you know. And so he really, this isn't quite shot for shot, but at least a lot of he takes great time and effort. Jackson does in really sticking true to the story, which I respect. That's the
yeah,
greatest strength
true.
and one of the weaknesses to this movie. But then, so he tells Anne about this thing. It's like, hey, you know, we're going to go film this movie. And she's like, oh, great. And then so they go to the ship. And of course, he stole some film. And so these, the studio guys are chasing him onto the ship, you know.
And he's not clear on the details of this movie clearly, because if, you know, he told her everything in detail, like, you're going to go to a damn island where there's going to be all these people who won't understand, who've never seen a white woman before. And, you know, you're going to be the first white woman and they're going to offer you up to this giant gorilla.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. That's not going to happen.
No. But what strikes me about this is this whole part of the movie and on throughout half of it here is that Peter Jackson leans on fate. Fate is a character in this film, and every opportunity he has to give a little nod, nudge, nudge, wink, wink to the original movie, but to set it as if not only does King Kong exist in this universe, it's foretold by the universe. You know,
it's set in the same time period as the original movie too. The original OG King Kong, the original gangster King Kong, 1933.
And yeah, and he really, I think he overplays that hand too much. I think he just reminds us too many times that the hands of fate are at work here. You know, for my taste. I mean, just let it be, because tonally the first part of this movie is really weird. Comedy, comedy, comedy. Jack Black, comedy, comedy. Fate.
Yeah.
I'm serious now. It's fate. And so anyway, they get to the ship and they're trying
Are
to
you
basically
saying that
flee.
is, shall I drop this? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but are you saying this is somewhat, you can add an echo here, J.J. Abrams?
How dare you, Jordan? Compare a filmmaker like Peter Jackson to a movie maker like J.J. Abrams.
I'm sorry, but yeah,
It's too
that's
low,
the
man.
last time I was reminded of something like this, where you say fate has something to do with everything, was with J.J. Abrams.
It's like Super
I
8.
halfway laugh, halfway joke, halfway laugh.
But yeah, I mean, it feels a little clumsy, even especially for Peter Jackson, some of this stuff. Anyway, so they get to the ship, and then on the ship, we meet all these different characters. We'll get into them in a minute, but
My God, it's so many. It's like as bad as an Altman film almost. I mean, you're like, who do I have to get to know here?
there's so many people and so many subplots,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that is why the movie is 3 hours long. Anyway, so one of the people on this is Jack Driscoll, who was just the first mate of the ship in the original movie, is now, like I said, this famous playwright or this
He's
arty
now
playwright.
Barton Fink from a Coen Brothers movie. He's basically John Turturro as Barton Fink, played by Adrian Brody.
That might have been better casting. That might have been more interesting. I don't know, but so he's this playwright who writes all these like Broadway or off Broadway plays that are all serious and dramatic.
Yes, and played by Adrian Brody, post Oscar for The Pianist. Not too long after.
Back then, when Hollywood would just throw Adrian Brody in anything, pre-Predators.
There's a lot of heat behind him at this point. I mean, he's in demand. Everybody wants him for everything, probably. That kind of thing, you know. Yeah, pre-Predators. And by the way, fun fact, Adrian Brody was busy back then a lot. He was in such demand that he was actually edited into this movie later on at the last minute. He was cut and pasted in digitally.
Really?
And he was cast as an afterthought months before release, in fact, and his dialogue was all looped by Glenn Close.
And Andy Serkis played him whenever they were.
Only in the action scenes when they needed a stunt double. Yes, Andy Serkis. Boy, he worked his heart out on this movie.
And he
Okay,
really
I made
did.
all that up. Okay, I made all that up.
So, anyways,
sorry.
But no, Jack Driscoll, Adrian Brody plays this artsy playwright who's also writing some jungle movie for
Yeah.
Carl Denham, and they're somehow buddies and they somehow know each other, right?
Right.
And then
Yeah.
Anne, who wanted to do comedy, not drama, like she agrees. She goes on this thing, and then I don't know. It's this beautiful woman on this ship of ne'er-do-wells, which was very much the original. Like, it doesn't feel safe for her. It's kind of creepy, but the ship is beautiful. The sets are amazing.
The view is beautiful, all that,
Yeah.
because they're on the ocean. It's very romantic.
But I will say, and I forgot to mention this, like going back to the fate thing, like Denham says, as soon as I saw you, I knew it was going to be you, to play this character. And then the whole thing where Jack Driscoll gets stuck on the ship. So basically the ship is leaving, the creditors or the studio's coming, and he's like, all right, Denham, I just need to leave in a minute. Here's, a few pages of the script. And then it's kind of funny how like Jack Black delays him by like writing the check he owes him, like keeps screwing that up. But he runs out to leave the ship, Jack Driscoll does, and gives the weakest goddamn in movie history. It's just so bad. It's poorly looped. I don't know. It's just so bad. Mm-hmm. The weakest goddamn in movie history from great Oscar winner Adrian Brody.
Yeah.
He's phoning this in, man. He's kind of phoning it in.
He's just kind of playing himself. He's a little bit overwhelmed by the atmosphere. Obviously, he probably got a good payday with this movie, I imagine. So he might just be winging it on this movie at this point in his career because, he's like, I earned it, bitch. He's in shape. He got in shape. I mean, hell, he was on Muscle magazine covers back then even.
Was he?
Because of some regimen he got. Yeah, that's not a joke, actually.
Well, he is paying him $2,000 in 1933, which would be $45,000, Jordan.
Wow.
In today's money for this movie, for this a few pages of script. So
wow.
Anyway,
which is still kind of like peanuts.
Yeah, and this whole contrived way to get him on the ship and involved in the movie is, I don't know why they just didn't leave Driscoll as the first mate like it was in the original movie. Let it be. Yeah. We don't need any more characters. But no.
I mean, slowly we find out, too, Jack Driscoll as this screenwriting character, which once again is completely different from the original 1933 version, where he's first mate on a ship, basically, right? I mean, or something or other.
Yeah, he's just on the ship.
Completely different. I mean,
he's like, I hate women, and come here, doll, and just like kiss his hand, and they fall in love. And
yeah,
it's very 1930s. You could not do that today.
Well, I think I love you. I'm not saying that, but they could have why couldn't they just stick to that original kind of character? Why'd they have to write him in as a Barton Fink screenwriter who Ann Darrow is gaga over somehow, or I don't know. Did they have to have a love triangle between Adrian Brody, her, and Kong? I mean, was that the whole deal?
And that's we'll get into that later, but that's the crazy part. I don't know. I guess you need the romantic lead, but there are so many people to choose from already, because we've got Baxter, who is the actor played by the great
Kyle Chandler,
who you could not make a movie without in this era, as we discussed at Super 8. So there's multiple Super 8 ties here. And we meet Engelhorn, the captain, who has more chemistry with Anne than Brody does, at least in the beginning, right? And so we meet a lot of people on this ship. But the most important ones, I think, are Jimmy, who is this teenager, and Mr. Hayes, Ben Hayes, who is sort of his mentor, father figure.
Yeah, played by Scatman Crothers. No,
I'm
sorry, I got the actors wrong.
Played by Evan Park. And so
him and Jimmy used to talk about Shining all day long.
Yeah. And so these two have this protracted story throughout the movie where it's like, Jimmy, don't do this. Jimmy, don't do that. Jimmy, don't do drugs. Stay in school. but Mr. Hayes, and
Yeah, there's like another movie there that we didn't even know about that just, oh, wow, is this another movie? Is it going to spin off another movie or something? Or,
it's so weird. The movie spends so much time between these two, and I don't know what it's setting it all up for.
yeah.
I don't really understand that, and I don't know what it's trying to elicit and why this
One
is
of
happening.
many characters once again in this movie and that's part of the problem I have with this movie. Anyway.
Yeah, and then, like you mentioned, on top of playing Kong later, we have Andy Serkis, he plays Lumpy, the ship's cook, and everything.
Yeah, like Andy Serkis didn't have enough to do on this movie.
Oh man, he was running craft services. He was gaffing. I mean, you get Andy Serkis, you get Andy Serkis. You're gonna put him to work.
He's got like 20 union cards from what I understand.
And so there's also Choi, played by Mr. Lobo Chan.
Jeez, God, another one. Yes. Ah, God.
Yeah, another character on the ship. He is the ship's cook. No, wait. Andy Serkis, the ship's cook. So I guess he's just there for fan service.
God, jeez, man.
Exactly. But in the original, this was Charlie.
I remember him because they asked him how many potatoes he's peeled, and he gave you an exact number in the original movie, right?
Yeah.
Based on that guy.
He was horribly racist, but
Very
as a kid,
stereotypical,
one of my
yeah.
favorite characters because he was like the comic relief. In this movie, everybody's comic relief.
Yeah.
Like, because when Anne, she hears that Jack Driscoll's on the ship and she hasn't seen him in person. She just has his plays. And so oh, Jack Driscoll's writing this. Oh, and so she goes and she sees the sound guy.
Yeah. Because they don't have, she doesn't know what he looks like, I guess, apparently, because it's not the internet. There's no internet around. There's even though there's newspapers, I guess they don't put the playwright's picture next to these successful plays at all. Not at all. So I guess he's somewhat enigmatic.
Yeah.
And
the cinematographer who looks like Stephen Colbert's brother. And she goes there and thinks he's Jack Driscoll, and she's like, Mr. Driscoll, blah, blah, blah. And cringy, embarrassing, not that funny scene. It kind of works.
Yeah. Instead of owning it, the brother just shies away from the whole deal.
Yeah. I would have been like, yes, Dame, I'm Jack Driscoll. Whatever you want.
Yeah.
But, of course, Adrian Brody is just Adrian Brodying. In the back
they don't
of the
give
scene.
his boring ass anything to do in this movie also at the same time. That's the problem. And you kind of wonder what he has this look on his face of, what am I here to do? What am I supposed to do next?
I'm better than this production, and I want everyone to know it, including the audience.
I just won an Oscar.
Yes. It's funny how you bring that around with you everywhere. It's like, well, So he embarrasses her, and he's just like, blah, blah, I'm Jack Driscoll. This stupidness. And you feel bad for
After
Anne.
Carl Denham, played by Jack Black, reminds her that, oh, this is not Jack Driscoll, blah, blah. And it's a cute little moment.
Cute little rom-com moment. Like, we have so many rom-com-y moments on this. Not actually building relationship and building drama. We get some of that, to Peter Jackson's credit, but we have so many of these rom-com comedy moments that kind of takes
it
us
literally is like right off a moment from Friends or something. Or
yeah,
it's literally a sitcom moment.
Think about this. I hadn't seen this movie yet, Jordan. How am I supposed to feel? Is this a comedy? Is this King Kong, the wacky adventures of Carl Denham? And I mean,
oh yeah.
At this
we
point,
haven't even seen King Kong yet, by the way, and we're only like 50 minutes in or so at the same time. I think even 45 minutes into the movie, if I'm doing my math correct, because we're not going to end up seeing King Kong for about an hour and 10 minutes. Spoilers ahead once again.
Yeah. Then that's when Denham is like, okay, by the way, Driscoll, we're going to this place called Skull Island. And there's this horrible scene, and I don't know, this is very Peter Jackson-y. This slow motion shutter cam as he's typing on this typewriter, Skull, S-K-U-L, fate is happening again, Jordan.
Shing,
Skull,
shing, shing.
And I'm just kind of like, I don't get that. It didn't work for me. Maybe it works for some people. Great. I thought that was really overwrought. And Jimmy's there like, ooh, and then so the crew hears about this from Jimmy, and then they corner him. They're like, we've got Andy Serkis, always awesome, even when he's playing a person, as Popeye, basically. And then he and Hayes are just talking about like the legend of Skull Island. I like this, and all these things they've heard about this giant wall and this half human monster.
Yeah, this is kind of neat because they're kind of making it, and you get the music by, and I do love, all kidding aside, I love the music by James Newton Howard. I mean, I've always been a fan of his music scores anyway, in general, no joke, all the way back to the movie Grand Canyon from 1991 where I first heard him, even all the way to Dark Knight. But yeah, list goes on. James Newton Howard can do no wrong.
The score is fantastic and it just fits everything, especially the theme, which we may hear later.
It gives a lot of weight to everything, a lot of good weight to everything. Very supportive score, once again.
Yeah. Multi Academy Award nominee, Pretty Woman, Dark Knight, and did a lot of work with Shyamalan, M. Night Shyamalan. And it was just perfect. I think the score is one of the things that makes this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do love the ship and the crew. I kind of wish we had another movie with them, like a prequel, because they're just, getting into shenanigans.
And I'm sorry, once again, why didn't we just start the damn movie on the damn ship or get into the ship faster, like with the original movie? Fuck, who cares about what Carl Denham went through before this? I don't understand why we need to up the ante for what's going on later on, for him. It's not like there's enough going on already,
Yeah, you could talk about it in 3 sentences, right? 3 lines, like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And just, start at the ship and let's just get with this crew and let's get on the way. We got places to be, Jordan. We got places to be.
We do. We got a Skull Island to be on, for Christ's sakes. Pardon my French.
But I love the crew, and it just feels, the sets, everything, like I said earlier, feel great. And this is an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean, right? And it's off the coast of Java. All this mirrors, matches up with the original.
It looks more realistic, of course, even though it uses the same principles as the original. It uses large miniatures because I think the ship is on the Universal back lot now when you pass through the Red Sea part.
Oh, really?
I think, from what I understand. Because they used a lot of miniatures on this movie. Once again, even there's a lot of CG work, there was a lot of, as they called it on Lord of the Rings, bigatures as well built, because these miniatures are so huge.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway.
Bucket list. And then, Englehorn, the captain, finds out that there's a warrant for Denham's arrest. Okay, this guy stole some film cans, and there's a worldwide search for him, shipped ashore radio from Sumatra, there's a creepy, of course, we get creepy, suspenseful.
Definitely, why wouldn't these guys just let him on the ship right away, of course, even though he's a wanted guy?
He's writing hot checks. I don't know. There's too much of that stuff. But so then we get more creepiness, fog of the compass, fate is happening, and that's really good. I like that. And then it was
kind of like a Harryhausen film and the original King Kong, like kind of remind me of Seven Voyages Sinbad with the fog scene in that movie a bit. So I liked all that too. I agree.
And so then the really suspenseful scene where just a great sequence where the ship is crashing through these rocks on Skull Island. Like, oh wait, and I like how they're sounding the depth. They've got the depth thing before.
Yeah, that's
sonar.
all fun, I think, and it looks fantastic. I mean,
a lot of fun on the ship. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the rocks are so sharp too. You almost think that like it's gonna literally crack the boat almost, because the rocks are just spiky and they're coming out of it. I mean, it makes it look kind of dangerous. It adds to the danger.
That ship would have been destroyed. There's no way. But yeah. It gets a little damage. But anyway, and then, they get stuck on the rocks, and then they're, how are we going to get out of here? And then they look, and then Denham's taking the lifeboat and the crew off. And there is some, I will stop, and I forgot to mention, there's some relationship building between Jack Driscoll, and they're filming some scenes on the boat, and you can really see Anne's presence. She's an actress, a comedic actress, but you really see that, and they shoot some original scenes from the original King Kong, like the dialogue and whatever with Kyle Chandler.
Yeah, which is kind of neat because you have Kyle Chandler playing that part, like the Bruce Cabot part. I think it was from the original. Yeah. Bruce Cabot, right from the original.
And that's cute. But then
it looks cool.
Then they crash on Skull Island and all that. So Denham just takes everybody in a lifeboat. Let's go do this thing.
Let's go shoot. I mean, that's what a true director does. That's the spirit of Marion Cooper again, I guess.
Yeah,
in this movie.
Well, I'll talk a little later about Marion Cooper and Denham. But the whole cast, they're just like, yeah, let's go on this boat. In this storm, the ship has crashed on these rocks. Yeah, let's just go to this island. Cool.
But yeah, that's a little insane compared to even the first movie.
Even
though.
the
You're
first
right.
one, yeah.
Because the first movie didn't. They weren't like it wasn't the storm that put them on the island in the first movie. They were still heading to that island regardless. You know, it was on the map, so to speak. So
Yeah.
anyway.
And then they get there, and then there's all these scary bamboo spikes everywhere. And not to mention that the rocks had Kong faces carved in them and all sorts of scariness. So this is ominous as hell. They get to this island with all these bamboo spikes and all this crazy stuff and skulls everywhere. There are skulls everywhere. So there's nothing weird about this. Let's just start filming, guys. But then all of a sudden we get all this Peter Jackson-y, blurry, shuddery, sweeping footage, focusing on things, blurry close-ups, all that.
Yeah. It's his way of segueing to get to the island, I guess.
Yeah, and they telegraph a lot with the sort of the cinematography, as great as the cinematography is, but there's just choices all throughout this. Choices. Like, why was that in there? We didn't need that. Just, a little too crazy. I don't know. A little too much sometimes. Again with the fade and again with the ominousness. We're going to slap you in the face with ominousness. We're not going to have a moment of quiet.
Is it safe to say that he wasn't a very restrained director here? He was kind of very,
Oh, no. No.
It's almost like I almost wonder at this point that if just the gloves were off with Peter Jackson in this movie, where he was just snorting all his own hype. Yeah. And he was just like, I'm going to do whatever I fucking want. Nobody's going to hold me back. I am not even going to, this movie will be 5 hours if I fucking want it to be. You almost wonder if it was that kind of thing going through his mind where he just felt like, hey, I'm going to take this moment in time, which you got to admire that too at the same time, I guess.
He seems like a sort of a humble person in general, but yeah, I mean, he's just like overindulging, and he's not quite like a Tarantino, like, I'm a genius, I know everything, man, but certainly there is excess.
Overindulging is the good way to say it as a director, because there's certain times, if the audience is unclear what I'm talking about when I talk about a director overindulging, it's when you're just going on a bit about things as a director, too much in scenes, too much character development, you're languishing on things.
We're doing the same thing several times, like that whatever you call that visual shuddery, blurry visual sweep.
Yeah. I mean, I love Apocalypse Now, but Apocalypse Now goes on for a bit because sometimes it's just, and I'm sorry, as a filmmaker, it's kind of like masturbation a bit.
How dare you? This is a family show, Jordan. No, but it is. He's jerking off all over this movie. And
yeah, I mean, I did nod off at one point during this movie, and I had a long dream that I was piloting a plane. And this sounds like a song, I know. That I was piloting a plane and Peter Jackson was holding it hostage, and I kept wanting to land, and Peter Jackson said, no, I've got more plot development, so you're not going to fucking land yet. Keep the fucking plane going.
Keep going.
And then I woke up from the dream, and I was still back in the movie just seconds later. I'm sorry, but no, I made all that up.
It's like that.
It is almost like that. It's just like we're being held hostage by a director once again.
So in the original, there was all these super racist, silly natives, but whatever. And here we're going to go full 70s bloodless cannibal movie. They meet this little girl and she's scary. And then all the natives come out and they're scary. Yeah. And then they're beheading people.
Now, this is the part that I love about the movie, though, because this is where Peter Jackson's horror fan, his inner horror fan, comes out once again. Peter Jackson loves the old Splatterfest horror films.
Oh, yeah. He made a few of them. Yeah.
That was his bread and butter early on in his career. That was, and this looks like it was literally like he plucked the cast from Cannibal Holocaust, a very little-known Grindhouse movie. Look it up, folks. That's all I can say.
One of several in the 70s, yeah.
Only me and you and I think Eli Roth and Quentin Tarantino know about this movie, probably. We're the only people Eli in the world Roth that know about this movie.
Knows about it.
But I think it's like he literally plucked the whatever native tribe from this movie. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, Anthony, continue.
But anyway, so they're beheading people and it's all scary and they have Anne and it really is scary. But tonally, we went, think about it, from comedy, wacky Jack Black comedy,
to Cannibal Holocaust in a PG-13 movie.
In a PG-13 movie. After a long sea voyage that begins at dawn, which he cut that line for no reason. But anyway, so I'm just kind of like, where's the wonder and excitement? And I understand Skull Island and Peter Jackson's universe is a scary, dangerous place. Good God, it is the
Yeah.
scariest, most dangerous place ever, and I love that about it. But there's no gee whiz, and there's no ooh ah.
We get there in a different way than we do in the original Cooper version.
Yeah,
And even the way we do in the Dino De Laurentiis version, where it's slowly kind of we get there via Rainstorm this time with Peter Jackson, basically.
Yeah.
So it's everything is a little more blurred, so to speak.
yeah. And then we go back to the ship, and they escape because Einhorn saves them. The captain saves them for about the third time here in this movie, or
Thank
the first
God,
of many
yeah.
times.
Oh, that's
And
right.
so
Yeah.
Denham is drunk, and he's like, "I want to finish this film." Some silly dialogue there, and then the natives sneak onto the ship, and they're about to free the ship. They're trying to lighten the ship, throwing everything off. They didn't throw Adrian Brody off. I think that would have helped, but the natives come onto the ship.
Here it comes. Here comes the hatred.
He comes.
Adrian Brody hatred.
Got the Adrian Brody hatred just loaded up.
I shouldn't use the hatred word. I'm sorry. That's a strong
I don't
word.
hate him, but
The Adrian
actually,
Brody
I have something to say
dislike.
about it. And George's afraid of the fact that for years I've really given, obviously, Jack Black and Adrian Brody a hard time for this movie. It's not their fault, miscasting, but we'll get into that a little later.
True. I have opinions on Carl Denham casting. Actually.
Teaser
to what's later to come in this podcast. Yes.
And so the natives sneak on the ship. They capture Anne, of course. Adrian Brody somehow, or not Adrian Brody, but his character somehow finds the necklace, this little necklace on a huge ship. And then anyway, they get the ship out and they're like, let's get the hell out of here. But Anne's on the island. Then the natives take Anne as a sacrifice. Again, they've never seen a blonde woman, and it's interesting because this was a multi-ethnic cast. I remember listening to an interview where Peter Jackson was talking about not the cast itself, but the natives were not. They didn't just grab one ethnicity. It was really interesting, which gives them a unique look, a very exotic look. And they're really heavy on the bamboo tech, but it's like you couldn't live in that village. It's so pokey. Everything would poke you in that village, and skulls everywhere. I don't know. Anyway, so they get Anne.
That's your problem with this also so far is the stuff in the village it'll poke you, Anthony. I'm just
saying it looks a bit dangerous. It looks uncomfortable. I like my villages
a bit pokey.
Clean. Okay. I like grass huts. That's how I like my villages. But anyways.
I like cappuccinos and grass huts. Yes. Okay.
And so, and all the villagers are on psychoactive drugs during this big scene, and the scary witch doctor lady, she's,
Yeah, this literally almost looks like it's an outtake from this old Wes Craven movie called Serpent in the Rainbow.
Serpent in the Rainbow, yeah.
At this point.
About voodoo, yeah.
It's almost like the PG-13 version of, once again, Cannibal Holocaust and Serpent in the Rainbow. But yeah, I mean, this tribe looks so far out compared to any other incarnation of Kong at this point.
Oh, boy.
Any movie. Where it's almost believable too. That's the weird fuck.
I love it, and it's also distracting at the same time. I'm really mixed on that. I appreciate it, but does it belong in this film? Yes, it does, because it's a Peter Jackson movie. But it's distracting. But I like it.
Also, we still haven't met Kong once yet in this whole movie. Not even seen a picture of him. Not even heard a gorilla word. Not just yet. Still. I mean, we're getting closer, yes.
Well, this movie presumes that you know what Kong is, which is fine.
Yeah, I guess they're playing off that, sure.
Yeah, but almost to a fault. And, they don't really set up Kong much. Because they're like, well, you've seen the original. And who's seen the original? I don't know how many people today have. But anyway, so Anne's on the island. The crew comes back with guns. They start shooting natives. And then I will say, despite the pokey sets, they do look fantastic, and there is some dread here. But then it's kind of undercut, like boom, the natives start getting killed. So
yeah, and it looks even bigger than any other incarnation of Kong. I mean, as far as the setting and everything, because they go beyond. They don't just build big sets; they build miniatures, and they're using blue screen and all this complex combination of things now. So they make it look. This sequence looks the most ginormous compared to every other Kong incarnation at this point in time.
And the wall is massive.
Oh, the wall is huge. I mean, just my God, it's beyond.
And all their bamboo tech, they've got Anne, and they're lowering her onto the famous pedestal, just like the original, or similar
Yeah.
to the original. And Anne is sacrificed to Kong.
She's literally, it's weird the way they do it. They have this whole dangling kind of scene where they've got her kind of strung from a giant slingshot kind of thing, just dangling her over kind of
Like
right to where Kong's going to show up, we assume, I
this
guess.
big drawbridge sort of thing. And I like it. It's kind of creepy and weird looking and pokey looking.
And this is where history repeats itself once
Yeah.
again. I mean,
Fate. And then there's like all this fire raining down on the wall. Like, is this lava? Is this flaming oil? Do these and all this, the whole village is made of bamboo and everything's made of bamboo. So I'm like, is it really smart to have all of this lava or flaming stuff around? I don't get it. I don't get where all the fire is coming from, but it looks great. It looks awesome.
yeah.
But they're gonna burn their village down.
But this is at least the point where we finally get to see King Kong. We hear the roar, and then we see his hand, and his hand just comes in out of nowhere when she's right there, and then all
Yeah.
the natives are just like, "Oh my God, he's here finally!"
And then so we see bits and pieces of Kong. We see just enough. I
Yeah.
like it. In the original, you see his face, this big ridiculous.
And I did
prop.
time it. It literally is an hour and 9 minutes in, and mind you, this movie is only 3 hours and 7 minutes at the same time.
It's only 3 hours and 7 minutes.
And in fact, I grew a beard during the first hour of this movie, and by this point, I was actually. Anyway, yeah.
And then we see Kong, and we get a great scream from Naomi Watts, but then they cut it.
It is great. Yeah, it's a great.
They cut it for reasons, but I get it. I just think it was cut away too soon. I don't know, because originally you see Fay Ray screaming her butt off. And
Yeah.
then Jack Black's character, like, this is whenever the captain comes in and saves him. Jack Black sees something. He sees Kong, and he doesn't tell anybody else what it is. And then suddenly Driscoll's like, I want to save Anne because we had a moment on the boat. Like, you know, he goes from like, and later on this movie, he goes from like playwright to action hero. Like you said, he's been using his gym membership, Jordan, and now he's a tough guy.
That's another odd thing. Yeah, I don't go how he goes to being the strong all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's a little unbelievable, and they don't really, as much as this movie explains everybody else, it doesn't explain that part of it, honestly. It doesn't tell us Jack was in the war. It doesn't tell us that he was a war hero. All we know is he's a goddamn playwright.
Yeah, and so, yeah, he feels kind of shoehorned into this.
Yeah.
So anyway, Kong, of course, takes Anne to his lair, and he's swinging her around, and this would kill somebody, Jordan. You know what I mean? No whiplash. She's totally fine. She's thrown on rocks all the time. She's totally cool. And then we see all the bodies of his other sacrifices, and it's really scary.
Right.
And then, of course, we go to the crew, and then I love how we see the ruins of this lost civilization, you know, which is...
This is kind of cool, yeah.
A little more in Son of Kong, but yeah, they talk about it like it wasn't the natives that built this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of disrespectful to the natives, I guess, but there's some ancient history here that explains all this, that no one's... I know there's a whole world with Peter Jackson's Kong or Skull Island. There's books on it and documentaries. And so evolution here has basically progressed since the time of the dinosaurs. And there was this ancient civilization, and it's all part of this very rich lore, you know, and I love it. And he stays true to that because there's like ruins everywhere on this island. Just what you want to see in this kind of movie.
That I love too, honestly. You know, I mean, that even like opens up, if Universal is thinking amusement park ideas, hey, that opens it up. You know, I mean, that opens up for even more. So why couldn't you have just one Skull Island whole amusement section out of every Universal location? I mean,
a new Kong ride going,
I mean,
on a mine cart through like ruins and dinosaurs.
And it also adds to why Universal wouldn't want to revive Kong for all this stuff as well. Don't get me wrong. I mean, and that, you know, hey, dare I venture to say outside here, my favorite adaptation of King Kong is the old Universal Studios ride, where it was just the animatronic beast after you drove through Back to the Future section on the lot, basically. I think it burned down in 2007, though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But that was my favorite adaptation. That was where you got the real visceral punch because you
Yeah.
were literally there. You're suddenly there in New York. Bam! There's big ass Kong right in front of you. You see explosions. Everything go off around you. I mean, anyway.
Yeah, I never got to see that. I'm super jealous. Thanks for rubbing that in my face.
I'm sorry.
So anyway, no, I'm
You
not.
cut that part out of the podcast.
No, you're good. I'm sure a lot of people have fond memories of that. But anyway, so the crew and Denham and everybody and Driscoll are in hot pursuit. They see Kong's tracks and they're like, "What the hell is this?" You know?
Yeah.
And then Denham sees some dinosaurs and starts filming them. Right, the long neck sauropod dinosaurs. He's filming those, and
This island still has dinosaurs.
it still has
amazing.
dinosaurs. We don't get a Jurassic Park sense of wonder because it's like, of course, it's Skull Island. It's got dinosaurs. You've seen the first one. Anyway,
Yeah.
that
was like the first time we ever saw it in the original movie, of course. But
Yeah,
so
and it
bigger
was-
deal there.
whoa, a freaking dinosaur? And they're just like, what is that? It's a freaking dinosaur. I mean, there's this sense of what the hell. And in this movie, it's like, oh, it's a dinosaur. You know, everyone's seen Jurassic Park, right? No one's impressed by these dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs are kind of silly looking anyway. And then Denham, you see his determination as a filmmaker. Jack Black tries to act for a minute, and he's really just filming these dinosaurs. And then he pushes Kyle Chandler's character out there, and then he's just like, "What the hell, dinosaurs? You want me to go out here?" Nobody's like, "Holy shit, dinosaurs!" Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I don't know. You know, a bit dangerous maybe these dinosaurs." And then there's the stampede for reasons, and this whole action sequence, which I really wish was just cut, about these silly dinosaurs and these raptor-like things that are following them and chasing them, and they're running in between the dinosaurs' legs. It's completely improbable. It's claustrophobic. It's weird. It's confusing. And then the dinosaurs are impossibly dumb and lumbering. Some of them just run off a cliff stupidly.
It's as if Jurassic Park never existed.
Yeah, well, this is 1933, Jordan. Jurassic Park has not been made yet. No, I mean,
That's the problem, Anthony.
there's a
right?
comedy to this scene that undercuts things. It's kind of not serious, which is fine, but all the other monsters on Skull Island are serious. Nothing's comedic, you know, and then these are lumbering, stupid 1950s dinosaurs or something, and it ends with this whole game of Twister where all the dinosaurs just kind of fall into a big pile. And somehow everyone's still okay. Everyone's all right. You know what I mean? It's kind of an annoying scene if I haven't ranted enough about it. But I don't know.
It's a fun scene, but it goes on for a bit, and it's not like anything new that we've seen at that point, even in 2005, because we've already had 3 Jurassic Park movies come out since that point.
Yeah.
It's not like it's groundbreaking anyway, this scene, so I don't blame you for ranting. It does go on for a bit. I'm sorry.
That sequence cost more than you and I combined will ever make in our lifetimes, and I think it should have been cut. Anyway.
You're probably not.
So anyway, Kyle Chandler wants to turn back, and he's right, everybody. You know what I always say, the movie shouldn't happen. You know, let's go back.
Yeah,
Kyle.
he's right.
He's right. Let's get the hell out
And
of
plus, good God, we're already about an hour and 30 minutes in already. Why not go back at this point to New York, folks?
Man, I don't know this actress. Let's go back. I mean, I'm sorry. Fate and all that, but really, we just saw a bunch of dinosaurs and like a bunch of people died already. And so, and I think they have that discussion in many King Kong incarnations. Someone's like, let's get the hell out of here. No. And we have that discussion about 5 times in this movie. But anyway.
Every other movie where it's a horror film situation or any situation, where the shit's hit the fan and you're like, so let's get out of here. And then, no, the movie stays there and we stay there and it goes longer.
The plot must go on, Jordan. Anyway.
The plot must go on.
So we go back to the meat and the potatoes, the heart, the core of this movie, and that's Kong and Anne. And she tries
and
to
we finally get to see Kong. Finally. Jeez.
We finally get to see Kong, and he looks beautiful. He looks like a gorilla.
By the way, too, I don't know where they got this ape. This simian is a true thespian. I heard the ape they got to play Kong in this movie was Juilliard trained. And I heard they signed him with William Morris right after this. And in fact, Universal signed him to a 2-picture deal where he had a pay or play deal, $20 million. But anyway.
Jordan, it's not an ape. It's Andy Serkis once again, and of course he would play Caesar
Well,
in the Ape movies and play
yeah,
Gollum.
that's the first. Okay,
It's
I'm
a Peter
sorry. I
Jackson
think
movie. Come on.
you're confusing the first two movies, Anthony. But clearly, this is a real ape in this movie. They got a real ape.
It looks like a real ape, but it's fantastic CGI that holds up even today. And Kong's jaw is broken. He looks
I
rough.
thought this was a real gorilla they got, and they just did forced perspective the whole time. This time around, but they got a really intelligent gorilla this time.
Andy Serkis played the gorilla, Jordan.
I thought it was a real gorilla, and he was like really smart and got. Apparently, he overdosed on chloroform after this movie, even, and was seen partying at Viper Room.
He developed a chloroform habit.
Yeah, and was found unconscious at Chateau Marmont later on. But then he was alive later on, and because of all the money he made, I think he had to come back in Kong Skull Island. Am I wrong about all this? Geez, do I sound crazy? Okay, I'm sorry.
It sounds like you're describing Ezra Miller there. If Ezra Miller were a gorilla.
You said Andy Serkis played him, and this, my God.
Total CGI.
Weta is amazing. Let me tell you, Weta Effects Company is amazing, man. Jeez, wow. Anyway.
It's quite believable, man, and it's so believable. Like I said, I think it holds up today, and there's so much character to Kong, both in Andy Serkis' performance and the animators, like his eyes, just his expressions. It's mixed in with like human.
All he did was play King Kong wearing ping pong balls, and his performance shined through the ping pong balls somehow.
That's what he does. He's Andy Serkis, man.
Amazing. No wonder Marvel hired him and Disney and all that later on.
Oh, God, he's brilliant. And he, is an ape enthusiast, and so I think he takes it so seriously. Nobody does it like Andy Serkis. We could talk for an hour about how great he is.
Nobody does it like Serkis.
But this particular scene begins at what is one of the most powerful. This movie would be meh if it weren't for the relationship between Kong and Anne that builds right here. And she tries to escape.
Beauty and the Beast. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Beauty and the Beast story. She tries to escape and falls, and then he pushes her over, and she sees him laugh, sort of, if a gorilla could laugh, and then she starts performing, right? And then he keeps knocking her down, and then she just stabs him with a stick, and he's just like goes off to pout. But we have this relationship building here. This is
it's a touching moment. It is a touching moment.
I mean, Kong has loneliness in his eyes, and we later see like the skeletons of his dead family. He's lonely.
In the original, we feel sorry for him, after everything he's been through in the original, because we see how he's taken out of his. In the original, we already saw he was taken out of his element. He's taken out of where he lives, into an urban setting, and that's you can't totally blame him for reacting the way he does, because he's like not in a jungle setting, what he's used to.
Yeah, he's a victim. He's a victim very much,
definitely.
And here
we see he's a victim though.
Because it's like, at first you see that it's like, did I see what I thought I saw? There's some humanity to Kong that wasn't in the original. Wasn't even conceived of in the original. I mean, he has humorous things, but you don't see as much humanity in Kong. Mm-hmm. And then slowly this builds over the movie. But we'll go to Kong attacks the crew. Mr. Hayes dies. Jimmy. Mr. Hayes. Jimmy. Yeah. Mr. Hayes. Finally, we don't have to hear
that whole subplot is gone now. They just killed that subplot as well. So
drink every time Jimmy says Mr. Hayes, and Mr. Hayes says Jimmy, you're not going to make it to this point in the movie. You're just
drink every time there's a subplot dies at this point too. Or all the characters in a subplot dies.
We're lost in this movie, just like they're lost on Skull Island, and some of these subplots. Speaking of subplots, a great scene, but there's a log scene in the original movie which they recreate wonderfully. It's indulgent.
It is fun.
I like it, but
although it is fun, I agree.
Oh my God. Anyway, so Anne sneaks away, and then she has monster troubles. A wonderful centipede scene, which is really creepy. And then these T-Rexes or V-Rexes, whatever they are in this version of the movie, chase her. And one of these things is eating a whole other dinosaur thing. So it's like, Jordan, would you give up a pizza to go chase an olive that rolled onto the floor? It's
a
like
good point. Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense for a
Like if I'm eating a steak, am I going to run after a little chicken wing?
I don't get it. It's a movie, everybody.
I mean, yeah, it might be a hot, spicy, boneless. I mean, not even boneless wing, but no.
But you
It's
got a
gonna be
whole
bony
steak,
wing,
and
but
you're
still,
already
I've got a
eating the
steak in
steak,
front of me.
and
Yeah,
half the steak
exactly.
is in your mouth. Now
I'll let the wing go at that.
You
point.
could try to swallow the steak as you ran after the wing, but that would be a choking hazard and not believable.
That's a bit, yeah.
That's a
you're
bit
right.
much. So then, wonderful scene. King Kong comes to save her from the T-Rex. Great action sequence. And not one, Jordan, not two, but how many T-Rexes is Kong freaking fighting here?
3 all at once? Jeez,
Three at once, man.
Good God,
And he gets
man.
bitten on the arm like 10 times, like, and on the foot. And I mean, there's no way a T-Rex is going to just bite, even if you're Kong, just bite you on the arm, and that's going to be cool. He's not even bleeding. But anyway, movie.
Yeah, he fights them like they're a couple of pit bulls or something, or Rottweiler dogs.
Yeah. I love this whole sequence, and there's a scene where they're like dangling from vines for reasons down this chasm, and I love it. It's way over the top. It's Peter Jackson. It's way too much. I like it, but it's way too much. I don't know.
Overindulgent once again.
Overindulgent. I like it though. I mean, but yeah.
True. It's
He's
not
at-
boring. I mean, I'm not complaining.
He's at 11. You know, this movie goes to 11, Jordan.
The length of this movie, always, I'm complaining about the length of this movie once again. I don't, when you consider the original length of the original movie was like 2 hours. I've got it written down.
Yeah.
2 hours and 4 minutes, I believe it is.
It's like, Jordan, if you had a buffet and you liked all the stuff on the buffet, but then somebody had a gun to your head and said you have to eat everything in this buffet.
That's what it feels like, once again, like a director holding us hostage. I mean, the original is 2 hours and 5 minutes. The 76 version is 2 hours and 14 minutes even. And it feels long, even that movie.
Oh, that movie.
The 76 version. The pacing is so slow in that movie.
Oh my God.
And it introduces too many characters once again.
Oh my God.
And then this movie is 3 hours and 7 minutes once again. And that's not even counting the extended version that later came, which is 3 hours and 17 minutes. And they didn't even have an intermission during all this when it came out,
know.
from what I understand.
And do you know why it's so long? Because we get a famously cut scene from the original movie added back in here. The spider crab scene in the canyon, which is wonderful, and I love it.
True. That is a lot of fun. I love it too. And thank the maker we got it back. Thank the Jackson, the almighty Peter Jackson.
I mean, it is a great scene, but again, it's just like overload of all these sequences, but it's a wonderful scene. And they're down in all these impossible amounts of giant insects, and these carnivorous worms eat Andy Serkis, which was fantastic. I just love that scene. It's so awful and crazy, and
I mean,
body
they had
horror.
to kill him off at some point just to give him a break to finish playing Kong at the same time. So
I know. And Andy, this is the true fact. Andy Serkis actually played the worm that ate Andy Serkis. Believe it or not.
No joke.
No, that's I just made that up.
Oh, I almost believed you on that one. With Andy Serkis, you don't know what to believe, Anthony. When you go to his house, the guy that answers the door looks like him, and it's just him playing the guy answering the door, playing the butler. Acting. The guy that cooks his food will serve it to you and look like him, but it's just him playing the cook. That's all. It's just
green screened Andy Serkis with tennis balls, with ping pong balls on him.
I mean, it's amazing. Andy Serkis is amazing. One day he will get an Irving Thalberg Oscar Lifetime Achievement Award. I can see it.
Oh, he will.
Peter Jackson will be there to greet him with Naomi Watts. They'll be all gray and wrinkled at that point. Kevin Feige from Marvel will be there too. Anyway.
And just everybody. Because he's just been everywhere and done everything. He's just so awesome. Anyway, so freaking Jimmy is like shooting bugs with a Tommy gun.
Goddamn Jimmy. I forgot. He's in this movie still.
Yeah, he's still in this movie. Mr. Hayes is dead. Kong killed Mr. Hayes.
Mr. Hayes
Jimmy
is dead.
Still alive. God. Nobody's there to say, Jimmy, stay in school. Jimmy, don't do that. Jimmy, stay on the ship. So I don't know what Jimmy.
Stop smoking weed, Jimmy. Stop smoking cigarettes, Jimmy.
You've been hanging around with the wrong crowd, Jimmy.
I told you can't get this job with a street haircut, Jimmy.
And so
Sorry, that was from my own life. I'm sorry.
and so anyway, so he's shooting bugs off Adrian Brody with a Tommy gun, and there's no way that Adrian Brody's character Driscoll would not have gotten shot. There is no freaking way.
No, no. Unbelievable.
And I was very disappointed that Jack Driscoll didn't get shot in that scene. But that was my biggest misgiving there.
You and Adrian Brody. Well, we haven't heard from Adrian Brody in a while, so you don't have to worry about seeing him. Last time we saw him, he was in a Heineken commercial. Was that it?
He was in some TV show that I liked, and I forgot what it was, and I meant to look it up.
There you go. You don't even remember what it was you saw him in last. See,
because I was like, I don't hate Adrian Brody in this, and I was like, maybe he's not that bad an actor.
He's not a bad actor, but in this movie, for some reason, he's just eclipsed by everything else. And maybe it's not all his fault. Maybe acting and directing, that's a two-way street, as Kevin Smith once said, talking about a certain Star Wars prequel.
Yeah. Oh, he was in Succession. Yeah, he's been in stuff. Yeah.
Anyway. But I have seen Adrian Brody. Yeah, I've seen performances where he overacts a bit overly dramatic sometimes. I know what you're talking about there.
Yeah, he's underly dramatic in this. It's like he's got the 1,000-mile stare, but just looking confused. And that is not the same as acting.
He's just hailing a taxi cab in this movie. That's it. Not even chewing the furniture.
Cabby, take me to pick up my check.
That doesn't make any sense. What I just said, maybe. I'm sorry.
But I think even Kyle Chandler's a bit muted in this movie. He's TV acting. There's certain.
Yeah. I think Kyle Chandler's overacting a bit, and I get that he's got to, but at the same time, I feel like it's almost cartoonish to a cartoonish level at some points where there's nobody restraining him a bit. And I get Peter Jackson was probably distracted by not just having direct actors, but having to deal with effects at the same time.
Yeah.
On this movie. So that was, there was probably a big load.
And an ensemble, because there's this movie is either excellent performances or meh. All happening at once together. It's really bizarre.
Right.
And you have to point to the director at that point, or the casting, But anyway.
Yeah, true.
We go back to the meat, what we'd like to see. Why am I bored with the action sequences? I'm not bored by the action sequences, by the way. But I want to see more Kong and Ann. And then we go up there and they have this beautiful sunset moment, and she gets in his hand and they really bond, and she says beautiful, and somehow she knows sign language.
Yeah. It's quite touching, yeah.
And these two really have a relationship, and it's really building here.
Right.
And then so Driscoll's now an actor or an action star, not just a playwright, and he's like, I'm gonna go save Ann.
He's a man of action now, Anthony. He's Chuck Norris, man of action. Oh, that was a real cartoon, apparently.
Was that really a real cartoon?
Yes, exactly. And that's what Carl Driscoll is now, Chuck Norris, man of action.
Yeah, so Driscoll's like, I'm going to go save Ann. And then Denham has this plan oh, yeah, you go save Ann. And he's like, what if he hatches a little scheme to capture this ape and take him back because his film's exposed. He's lost all this stuff. Instead of leaving the island, Jordan, not telling anybody where the island is and coming back to the island, it's still a secret, everybody. Come back to the island with more people, more guns, and more film. How about that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, you got one, use it, right? So Anyway, Driscoll sneaks up and Ann is sleeping in Kong's hand, and then he tries to get her away, and Kong wakes up and sees this. And then there's giant bats everywhere. And then he, just like the original movie, he grabs in and they climb down this impossibly long vine. But then Kong starts pulling it up, which I like. And then they grab onto a bat.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
One of these giant bats, and it sort of flies them down to the river and they escape.
And I bet there's no ammonia smell the whole time they're flying. Because if anybody's been near a bat cave or anywhere near bats, there's a really bad, ammonia smell.
What are you doing hanging around bat caves, Jordan?
It's a long story. I wanted to be Batman a long time.
Getting high on ammonia, sounds like.
And getting high on ammonia. Just like Kong in the chlorophyll getting high. Anyway.
You and Jimmy out there getting high on bat ammonia.
But anyway,
Anyway, I don't know why the bat didn't just reach around and bite them. That's a thing.
That too, yeah. The bats like to peck, I've heard,
Yeah, they're bitey little creatures.
Bite little creatures, yeah.
Anyway, so then they get to the wall and they're like, "Hey, let the bridge down." And Denham's like, "Wait, hold it." And then Colin Hanks's character is just like, "No," and he lets the bridge down, and they run across, and then they're all ready to catch Kong, and they have all this chloroform, and all the
Oh,
crew's
that's
ready
right,
to
because
go.
we forgot to talk about the ship full of chloroform.
Yeah, sorry, it was
You got a whole ship full of chloroform there. But yeah, we saw it, and then we forgot that Carl Denham mentioned all of it.
They established that because the ship was basically horribly out. It's out of where's the ship out of? Indonesia somewhere, and they are just in the business of capturing endangered animals and selling them to
Yeah,
zoos.
it's an
and
odd
whatever.
cargo ship that also captures endangered animals, something like that.
Yeah, so that's what this was, cages and stuff on there. Yeah, and I mean, probably if you're going to pick a ship to capture a giant gorilla, that's probably, as luck would have it, Jordan, probably the best crew to do it with tons of.
What? I'm sorry. What? Oh, sorry. I was nodding off there. Oh, were we talking about Kong?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm boring you here.
Oh no. Oh, so chloroform, yes.
Oh, so I see what you're doing there.
I couldn't help it. That was.
And so it's really touching because Anne and Kong have really sort of developed this relationship, and then she sees all these men there about to capture him, right?
Yeah.
And she watches in horror basically as they, try to net him and capture him and dose him with chloroform.
They had a bond. We saw them develop a bond together, Beauty and the Beast. But we also saw them in scenes earlier where they were picking apples together, and there was a whole love montage. Like
there was a little montage,
and you saw them on vacation and they're in Bermuda with drinks and everything. Anyway,
and
no,
I really bought it. It
was beautiful.
They're finishing each other's sentences.
They had more chemistry than her and Adrian Brody in this movie, though.
That's what I'm saying, and that's exactly what I was going to say later because it's in my notes. But let's talk about it now. Yes.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go there.
That love triangle
early,
you brought up might as well, because I don't give a damn about Adrian Brody in this movie.
Yeah.
And you care about Kong, and maybe that's by design, but it's like
I
they
mean,
have a real connection, and the Adrian Brody thing is, and that maybe that's the message of this movie, the Beauty and the Beast message, is that she sees Kong for what he is, truly a Beauty and the Beast. Not in the original, Anne was just like screaming her head off. Fay Wray was just screaming and just being a woman captured by a monster, right?
Yeah.
And then here she sees humanity, or she sees something gentle in his soul despite his fierceness. And then Jack Driscoll is just like a pompous director, and she's in love with Jack Driscoll because he is a director and she admires
pompous
his
screenwriter. Well, pompous playwright.
I said director. Sorry, playwright. Thank you. I'm drinking a beer, Jordan.
But no, you're right. I mean, it's amazing. I'm not kidding on this part. It's amazing how much chemistry there is, on-screen chemistry there is between Naomi Watts as Ann Darrow and King Kong, played by Andy Serkis. But
and
yet
gorilla.
they're never in the same frame together. That's the tripped out part about it. Once again, I mean, this can happen in movies every now and then too. Editorially speaking, where just the actors are that good. If you look at a movie like Inner Space as an example, Martin Sheen and Dennis Quaid, they don't meet till the end of the movie, yet the whole time they're talking to each other, just like through mics, sort of, or walkie-talkies, sort of speak, sort of thing kind of going on. And like yet they have chemistry. And yet here, I will say, Naomi Watts and Kong have chemistry on screen.
It's fantastic.
Together.
It's
pretty amazing.
I can't give Peter Jackson enough credit for that, for having the wherewithal to really explore a very complex and interesting relationship there.
It's one of the few times it works where you have a special effect and a human in a movie together, coming together.
Exactly. And that's a testament to her acting.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's green screen acting, everybody, and you believe it.
Yeah.
She is selling it, and she's carrying this movie, number one, she and Kong, and she makes the ape believable with her reactions. Think
Yeah,
about
exactly.
it.
And once again, Naomi Watts, I'm not joking, is the person acting to nothing more than anybody in this whole movie, because she probably spends more time with Kong in this movie, her character. So she is literally, when they were shooting this movie, she is literally only having Andy Serkis to act to, like off in a crane somewhere sitting up on a high. But she might be making eye contact with him, but still, he's still he's yards away across the room still.
Yeah.
Still, it's an amazing testament to her acting.
Oh, it's fantastic, and it breathes life into that relationship, and it makes, like I said, it makes Kong more real.
Yeah, it breathes life into the special effect itself.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I have to apologize if you can even hear the neighbor's dog, and I wish I had some chloroform.
Oh, I barely hear it in the background.
Okay. Anyway.
Chloroform, oh my God.
Anyway, so she watches in horror because we believe this relationship as they're catching Kong. And she's like, no, and she's trying to stop them.
Yeah.
And then finally, like, they subdue him.
It's after we see Carl Denham himself throw a...
Carl Denham himself does
chloroform bottle right the fuck at Kong's head like an asshole.
And I love they're in this tunnel, which we know is in the Skull Island universe because it was in Son of Kong.
Yeah.
I don't think it was in the original. I think it was in Son of Kong. But anyway, so Kong's in this rock tunnel, and as he's being chloroformed by Denham, he reaches out to Anne.
Oh yeah,
it's a beautiful scene. And then where does the movie go from here, Jordan?
Somehow this is how I still wonder, how the fuck did they get this fucking gorilla all the way to New York still, this giant ape all the way to New York?
I know.
Even that many few men.
He's got to weigh 4 or 5 tons, man.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I still wonder, at least, I mean, well, in the original movie, I think he wasn't as ginormous, right?
I think he's about the same size. They say he's 50 feet, but I think he's really closer to 20, 25. And I know the 76 version, we spend so much time on the boat with towing Kong to New York.
Yeah. But yeah, Kong ends up back in New York, and it's kind of elusive it's kind of mysterious at first part, because we see Anne in a dressing room separated from the whole thing, and then we see Kong. We see that Driscoll is off somewhere.
Well, we see the marquee. It says Kong, 8th Wonder of the World, right?
Yeah. We're back in New York, basically. Carl is reviving him in front of an audience, and he is all chained up, kind of like in the original movie again. And this is one of the few times, I think, too, where you see Jack Black touching an actual part of a mock-up, because a lot of Kong in this movie is CG. But every now and then they need a hand, of course, or an arm, but you can see it once again.
There are some practical effects. Yeah, sometimes when Anne's in you see Kong's face a couple times. Yeah. And so I want to remind you that like 17 people died to bring Kong here, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right, too.
People have died, but thank God the show must go on. And
Carl Denham, a showman to the end.
And New York looks fantastic. The sets, the CGI,
I am amazed by the way they portrayed New York. I agree with that. They
totally
made New York come alive for this time period.
The props, the cameras they use. Now someone's going to be like, well, that camera didn't come out till 1937. Whatever. It looks great.
No, all that looks fine and accurate in my opinion. Yeah. It's just... But anyway, we're back
and
to
then
the...
we cut. So Denham's putting on the show here, but we cut to Driscoll, who's watching one of his plays, and the play is really about Anne and how he couldn't commit and say he loved her. And it's his own, remember Chasing Amy? It's his own version of Ben Affleck's Chasing Amy apology comic.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Go listen to that episode, guys. But that is probably the first and last time that anyone will reference Chasing Amy and King Kong in the same sentence. So,
whoa, you went there. Whoa.
Enjoy it. It's just kind of schmaltzy like that. It's just kind of like, I get it, but it's a little overwrought. But at the same time, it does tug at the heartstrings. This movie has moments that really do tug at the heartstrings for sure.
True. Even if it is manipulative a little bit sometimes, but yeah.
But there are times in which Jack Black's, it is manipulative at times. And there are times when Jack Black's like acting slips. Naomi Watts' accent slips like once or twice. Really fantastic. But Jack Black, like, I kind of don't buy him as Denham on the stage. You know, it's like, and it's the 8th wonder of the world. He's not a showman. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on this because I feel like Robert Downey Jr. would have been better. I hate to say that, like I
Oh
hate to say
man,
it like that, but
let's get into fantasy Carl Denham casting later because I've got
yeah,
some ideas.
because Carl Denham is supposed to be his ego is bigger than Kong. Let's put it that way. That's the thing about Carl Denham.
Yeah,
He's as gigantic as because he's a larger than life character himself. Because he's done it all. He's seen it all. He's lived dangerously. He's lived wild and dangerously, I imagine.
yeah,
So he's gonna be somebody like larger
he's a
than life.
showman. Yeah,
Robert Armstrong plays him perfectly in the original movie. I mean, and he's always yelling and he's always like saying stuff at the top of his lungs, but that's the way he should be.
he's
you
a
know?
big presence. And here
Exactly.
Jack Black is like, and Kong. He's not projecting. He's TV acting.
Well, it's truly amazing too when you go back to the original and you look at. I'm sorry, I'm going to go deep here, but Robert Armstrong is playing Carl Denham, a larger than life character in one movie, and then at the same time he's moonlighting, playing in another Schutzack Cooper movie called Dangerous Game, where he's playing a weak alcoholic dude.
Yeah,
I mean that's a great actor in my opinion.
he's got
Just
range.
saying.
He's a real actor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back
He
to
should
the
be
show.
that way. He should be larger than life. Even,
Yeah, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But so Kong is drugged in the Christ pose, just like the original movie, or similar.
oh yes.
Symbolism, metaphor.
He's got him chained up, yeah, so they drag up the chains to where his arms are over his head, kind of, yeah, in a screw.
Yeah, and I love how they have the actors, the native costumes, mock-ups of the native costumes from the original movie on the stage show, and I love
Yeah.
that. And they perform this little stage show, and then they pulled this
We
actress
see
out.
Kyle Chandler's character come back.
Yeah, wearing the
Because he's
pith helmet.
survived the whole time somehow, but yeah.
And Denham introduces him as the guy who brought Kong back. This is all a show, and I like that.
Oh yeah, and Driscoll shows up right there because he thinks it's going to be him being introduced, and then dickhead move, he tells the actor to come up on stage. So yeah.
And why did he think that? That part is weird. Why do you think that? It seems like he just snuck in. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
So then they pull presumably Anne out there for a sacrifice in quotes, and she's all tied up, and it's not.
Big surprise.
It's not Anne. And then Kong is at this point, reviving here, and he looks and sees that this woman isn't Anne.
It's almost like a diabetic that needed sugar at that point.
Yeah.
Got the wrong sugar, and he's not happy about it.
And so we cut to Anne, who is actually at the mirror, but she's a chorus girl. She didn't want to be in the production. You know what I mean?
She's not there. She hasn't been there the whole time. Oh no, big surprise. Yes.
So she probably needs a lot of therapy after that island.
Oh,
and
yeah.
what will happen later. But she is just, you can tell that she is very despondent and not happy.
But even back then, if something like that happened to you back then, they just tell you to drink and get over it, probably.
Drink and get over it. Except you're
Have
a
a
woman.
drink and
Just get over it and I'll do the drinking. And so Kong, again, like the flashbulbs in the original, Kong freaks out and then he escapes and he grabs the chick and just like throws her, realizes it's not Anne and throws her.
Like a rag doll, too. It's pretty mean.
I love it because he chases Driscoll outside because he remembers Driscoll. And then he's outside in New York, and it's an awesome scene where cars are crashing into him and everyone's freaking out, and it's just like chaos.
I love this part too because this is once again what like I've been waiting for this part, the whole time.
It's a different kind of monster movie run amok scene because the monster is very confused. There's no malice here. He's just like, where the hell am I? He's been roofied and he's woken up and he doesn't know where the hell he is.
He's been roofied and mollied and chloroformed all at the same time.
And we've all been there. You wake up in New York and you're like, where the hell am I? And it's 1933 and that was
and my kidney's gone. Oh, no.
Yeah. And so he's completely confused. And he's just picking up blonde women, which I love. He's just women to see if they're Anne. And I love that because that's where he goes to. His mind goes to that,
Which this there was a little bit of this in the original movie. I think in the cut that wasn't the TV cut, I think, where he was just kind of tossing. I think that's what it was kind of based on. They were kind of doing it more so in this one.
Yeah, I think he reaches into a window and pulls out a blonde girl. I think if I'm remembering,
and it's not her,
right.
and he just throws her off,
her.
just tosses her away like a rag doll.
Yeah, and he wrecks a lot of cars, and I love it. And
Man, a
I
lot of
wonder
cars,
how
yeah.
many of those old expensive cars they wrecked. Anyway, so then Driscoll hops in the cab and he chases him, and then Kong catches up with him, punches the cab, and the car flips around.
Yeah, this is like it almost. This part almost felt like it was Roland Emmerich making a King Kong movie because it felt like I was out of a Roland Emmerich movie. Roland Emmerich always notoriously has something, or it's just some disaster '90s movie where you're driving away from an explosion or a volcano or something like that. But
Oh
yeah,
God! Like in
I'm sorry,
Godzilla,
that
where
part
they
felt a little bit. Yeah,
drive into Godzilla's mouth in the cab. Oh, Jordan, I did not need to remember that film.
oh jeez.
Did that happen, or did I just make that up in my mind because it was
Wait,
something?
which Godzilla movie?
The Roland Emmerich Godzilla movie.
Oh my god, I forgot about that part where they drove into his mouth. I forgot.
Yeah, I
about
thought
that.
that's what you were talking about.
I was kind of referencing that movie. I just I forgot. Wow. No, I forgot that happened too. Actually,
This is not that bad, everybody.
that was from 1999. I'm sorry.
Let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about it any further. Let's move on. Just get over. I was having PTSD.
I used
there
my
for a
chair to
minute.
my advantage here for one point during this whole thing. 1999 sounds like a wheelchair there.
We've sullied this episode by talking about the Roland Emmerich Godzilla. Anyway, so it's not that bad.
Godzilla. Oh, sorry.
So it's not that bad. But I just want to point out that the car flips. Driscoll's okay, but I don't think there were any seat belts back then like they have them today. So
Well, they weren't wearing him like, even if they did have him, they weren't wearing him.
they were just decoration. But anyway, yeah, a car's not going to flip and you're going to be cool.
But Driscoll has also survived a lot at this point, so why wouldn't he survive?
He's a playwright action hero, Jordan. He's got
playwright
plot
action
armor.
heroes
Yeah.
always survive every,
And then out of the mist, Anne appears. And she and Kong are reunited.
majestically like an angel.
I was a bit teary, Jordan. I got a bit teary here.
Yeah, it's a little sad. It's a little sad.
But I mean, that's
moving.
the thing. It's. I wonder how she found out. Like, hey, there's a giant gorilla running around outside, and she's like, "What?" I mean, I missed. How did she know? But I mean, it's better that she just appears. But I mean,
It's over near 42nd. You gotta catch a cab.
but all the cabs are going the wrong way, so you're going to have to take the L train. Wait, the L train's been destroyed by the giant gorilla. So,
maybe take the subway. I don't know.
but anyways, she
Has the
gets
subway
over
been
there.
invented yet? I don't know.
She is the only person who is not surprised or shocked by the news of a giant gorilla, and she's walking the wrong way, clearly against traffic. And then it's like the Fisher King. They're reunited, and it's this love letter to New York.
Also, too, everybody has just left the city somehow at this point.
Yeah.
They've just suddenly vanished, which I kind of believe, but at the same time, I'm just like, wow, everybody cleared out really quickly for this moment.
Jordan, and I don't buy that. That's the least believable thing in this whole movie about a giant gorilla. New Yorkers wouldn't care. New Yorkers would just be walking to wherever they got to walk to. Yeah, giant gorilla. Yeah. Whatever. Anyway,
Hey.
they've seen it all.
Hey, that giant gorilla knock over your car? Hey, fuck you!
What
you,
is
gorilla!
This thing here? We got a giant gorilla in the street. What
Hey,
is this
hey,
thing?
watch
I
it, man.
gotta be somewhere. Jesus.
Hey, watch you. Don't pick a fight with that gorilla. Hey, fuck him. He fucking knocked over my car. Fuck him. I don't care where he's from.
Yeah.
Hey, you from Skull Island, fucker.
And then we go, and like I said, this beautiful sequence where it's date night and they're going out in New York and they go to Central Park and they slide on the ice, and it's just touching and beautiful that they're reunited.
It's Kong on ice. Kong on ice. You wanted to see Ice Capades? Now Kong on ice. This summer on Broadway.
And so it's great until the freaking military shows up.
They just, they're like just beyond buzzkill. They kill the whole deal literally with their bullets and all that. And they
You have a tender, beautiful moment between a woman and a giant gorilla in the snow in New York. And it's romantic or whatever. And then the freaking army shows up.
And then this is where you have to crank your sound down too.
Yeah. That's when Kong escapes. And I don't know if a 4-ton gorilla could as easily hop on top of buildings and not destroy everything or fall through the top of them. Anyway.
Yeah, true. I mean, what are
that happens.
What's the metallurgy going on there back then? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like Marvel movies, it's like whatever. Suspension of disbelief.
True.
But he climbs the Empire State Building, which we knew would happen. And it's interesting to see the Empire State Building dominate the skyline of New York.
Well, it wasn't it the tallest building back then. Still,
Somebody might correct us, but I mean that I think it was at the time the tallest building, certainly the tallest building in New York. But I mean, Peter Jackson just mocks up New York so beautifully. It's believable, you know.
that was pretty amazing. Yeah, and my fear of heights did not go up after this scene at all. No,
Yeah.
not at all. My fear of heights went no. I just
Yeah. Oh my God, I agree. Especially Anne's up there, and she's just she's a lot of ladder climbing at this part in the movie, and
she
she's
still
just
has the heels on too. I mean,
Yeah,
she's not even barefoot.
I noticed that too.
I don't know much about wearing heels, but I'm just saying for 1930s heels, I don't think, I hear women usually are uncomfortable in heels a lot of times. Just
yeah,
saying.
she's full Bryce Dallas Howard in Lost World or whatever it was.
Yeah, and I can only imagine like that time period heels. But I'm just saying, yeah, I mean, and she's even anyway.
She's fearless. And that's the thing about Anne. Like, she's really fearless in this whole freaking movie.
Jeez, man.
I mean, Denham even says she's the bravest lady I've met. And I believe it when she's at the top of the freaking Empire State Building, climbing this long ladder and heel stories. And I'm just like, oh my God. Well, that's, I guess, a testament to her feelings for Kong.
It's that, and she's into extreme sports at the same time. We didn't know that about her.
Just totally into Krav Maga.
She will skydive. She will sky surf.
She does parkour and heels. Yeah, totally extreme in the 30s. So Kong climbs up to the top of the Empire State Building. They share a very beautiful moment that mirrors the scene from Skull Island where they were watching the sunset there. Now they're watching the sunrise over New York, and I love it. And then some planes come into view, and you're like, oh,
she tells him he's beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm a little verklempt.
And he remembers the sign language she taught him.
Yeah, it is kind of sweet and touching, and it's a beautiful sunset, courtesy of Weta once again.
It is beautiful, and this isn't a romantic relationship, obviously. It's just something deep. It's a deep
Beauty
love
and the Beast,
share.
and it does at least give that off as far as the story goes. My complaint once again is the
we're
length
not
of
there.
the picture.
We're almost done.
Sorry.
What'd you say?
The length of the picture once again. Anyway, okay, so we're not there. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Then, of course, we all know how the movie ends. The biplanes come in and shoot him, and it's awesome, and he's fighting. It's a great, great, great sequence. It's awesome. And then at the end, Anne actually, he's been shot, and he puts Anne in a safe place, in the tower, and she climbs back up. And as the planes are coming, he's already been shot. She's waving and stops the planes from shooting him for a little bit.
That part too, once again, I mean, girlfriend marches all the way at the top of the Empire State Building in high heels, no less. And yeah, waving at the planes standing right in between Kong's legs while he's standing at the tippity top of this thing. I'm just saying, yeah, my fear of heights once again.
Oh my God, it's so
This did not increase my fear of heights. No. I'm just, man, boy, did it increase my fear of heights. As a TikTok video would say generally on stuff like this, my anxiety just went up.
Yeah. And I will say that, like, she returns the favor and she saves him from another barrage. She's yelling and waving at the planes, and I teared up then. It's like, movie, you got me. I believe this relationship. And then it's so sad. A CGI giant gorilla dies, and you're just like, it's so sad. And he slips off the top of the building as she's touching him.
Yeah.
And you see the light literally go out of his eyes, and then it's just the saddest thing in the world. And you're right, love triangle, because Driscoll climbed all the way up there like anyone gives a damn. And she hugs him, not because she's like, I love you, but just like, somebody I love just died. You know what I mean? It's a bizarre love triangle. And it's like the relationship between those two is deeper than whatever with Driscoll, who just couldn't commit to her because he's a dick. I don't know what his problem is. So that's the movie, except then we go down like we did in the original, and we hear Jack Black botch another line. And it was like, no, it was Beauty that killed the Beast. And when they said it in the original, it had meaning, and then here it's more like Jack Black trying to be serious.
Yeah.
It doesn't land. It's not the way to, I don't know, it's not the way to end the movie.
I feel bad kind of too criticizing Jack Black at the same time at the end of all this, because he's not, I think Jack Black is a really good actor at the same time, but I don't know. I think I'm sorry, but Carl Denham has to be larger than life, more so than Jack Black. Even he has to be more showman like. He's got to be P.T. Barnum, basically. You know, he's got to be Cecil B. DeMille.
Yeah, and let's just get into that. I just want to say, wouldn't there be a lot of blood and a giant crater in the sidewalk if a giant gorilla fell from the top of the Empire State Building? Not in this
Oh,
movie.
God, I didn't even think about that. My
Splat.
God.
But anyway, no, going back to Jack Black, yeah, let's talk about this. Carl Denham's an adventurer, and
Yeah.
I don't buy this chubby, smug guy filmed a bunch of jungle pictures, you know what I mean, and risked his life a ton of times, like you said, seen it all. I don't think this dude has ever been camping or
Yeah.
you
Jack
know,
Black
or
still looks
anything.
like he's in his early 30s at this point, I think, in the movie when he does this movie. But he still has a baby face on top of that. So yeah, he's good at coming off larger than life to a degree, but not Carl Denham larger than life. Carl Denham is supposed to be literally I could picture somebody like John Belushi even if he had still been alive. You know what I mean?
John Belushi, really?
I could
don't
picture John Lovitz as Carl Denham even or something. I don't know. You know, I
not
don't know. Or Robert Downey Jr. even.
Robert Downey Jr. definitely, and this was way well before Iron Man, because you don't know whether to take him seriously,
Yeah.
and that's the problem. Is this a comedy? And Jack Black is so good. He's like one of those actors that you just laugh looking at him. You know, like Bill Murray or something. He's just funny. He's not on that level, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's just a funny presence. And I was like, what is wrong with the casting in this movie? Who thought that was a good idea? Because I don't believe him as this character and I don't know whether to take him seriously.
My other hang up with this movie is something like what you just said. Everybody feels like that was cast in this movie is because they were all hip at the time. They were all like somebody on top at the time with heat surrounding them. And I
Yeah.
get it too at the same time. I get Peter Jackson doing that because his vision is I want people to see my vision of Kong. So I want actors who people recognize automatically to help lock in my vision.
Yeah. Well, was it? I think they wanted George Clooney for the role. I could have seen that.
Really?
Totally. Yeah.
I could see that. I mean,
I don't think he'd do this kind of movie, but I could totally see that. That's like epic casting right there.
If you took because George Clooney can come off silent and deadly, so that would be a more kind of subtle approach to that character. But
And definitely Robert Downey Jr., Jordan, because that's where we were both of the same mind. Because I have in my notes, I'm like, who could play this?
Yeah.
Russell Crowe, Robert Downey Jr. I'm thinking the era.
Johnny Depp at the time, I hate to say it.
Maybe
I know that's
it'd be
cliche
a Johnny
sounding,
Depp
but
movie. I don't know. I too Burton-esque, but maybe
Yeah.
Johnny Depp. Maybe Johnny
but
Depp.
that level is what I'm talking about, basically, because this is somebody. Yeah, they can't physically go head to head with Kong, but their ego can, so to speak, and that's what it is about Carl Denham. That's the essence of Carl Denham. Not to go deep there, but Carl Denham is supposed to be just as big as King Kong, so his
Yeah, and
casting matters just as much.
The man who subdued Kong.
Exactly, because his ego can fight with Kong. His ego can go toe to toe with Kong. He's big. He's larger than life to that degree.
I mean, what if it was Daniel Day-Lewis? Like, it was beauty that killed the beast. You know, you have like a real actor in there.
Absolutely. I'm sure Daniel Day-Lewis never would have done it and, would have found some fault in not doing it. But yeah, absolutely. I could see
It's a
Daniel
long
Day-Lewis.
sea voyage. That
Gangs in New York
begins at
level
dawn.
Daniel Day-Lewis. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just know that by the end of this movie, I had more gray hairs than I normally had because of the length. And I think Universal and Peter Jackson owe me for a whole quarter bag I smoked during the whole running time of this movie over the past 5 days.
I saw it in the theater and I don't remember it feeling that long. Obviously, I haven't seen this movie in several years, but
Interesting.
I've seen it, and I will not watch the extended version. Right? Sorry, guys. I'm sure it's awesome, but
I think that was the first version I saw, though, was that version, maybe, because that was the first DVD version I saw, maybe. But of course, I just was like, it's too long.
Yeah.
I hate to be impatient and all, but geez.
Yeah. I mean, the good is the relationship between Kong and Anne, and Naomi Watts, amazing, right? And then the bad, and I mean the sets, the everything, the look of everything, the CGI, all that's fantastic. But then to me, like what doesn't work are these tonal shifts, right? Comedy at the
Yeah.
beginning, Jack Black, like we've been talking about, throwing everything off kilter a little bit.
Yeah.
And then that Jimmy, Mr. Hayes, and about 5 other subplots. Which
Too many
just distract-
characters. I mean, my God, I said it before.
Too many cooks, Jordan, in
God.
this damn thing.
So many characters. What is this? A Robert Altman film? Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And so Adrian Brody, I think we touched on this. Why is he in there? And it's Adrian Brody. I just don't think his character needs to be in the movie, or they need to combine his character with something else. I just don't think so.
Yeah, his character felt pointless. I mean, they should have just, why didn't they just have some guy just like on the boat that she was at least enamored with or something, you know?
Yeah.
Just like in the original movie. I mean, just update the guy a little, give him a little overhaul so he's not so masochistic or not masochistic or chauvinistic.
Maybe she goes into his cabin and he has a bunch of books he's read, so he's not just a freaking like first mate on a ship, you know, something, you know, whatever.
They could have got Viggo Mortensen from Lord of the Rings right there, bam.
Yeah, but yeah, so a lot of opportunities that I think were missed, and I think I'm not sure, Jordan, you may have subtly hinted. Did I pick up on the fact that you thought this movie was too long?
Yeah, I just thought a little bit too long.
Maybe a little. And I agree. They could have cut 30 minutes out of this movie, cut that dino scene, subplots, chopped the beginning, made it a much tighter movie. And I think the emotional impact that you have to wait so long for between even awesome action scenes is just too much to get to the meat, which is Anne and Kong and Naomi Watts and Andy Serkis's performance. It's just fantastic.
Like I said, it takes an hour and like 9 or 10 minutes. I pretty much timed it to get to fucking Kong, to where we even see him. And I get there's always that build up in these movies. And hell, even Arthur P. Jacobs, when he was doing Planet of the Apes, the original 1968 Planet of the Apes, he used the 1933 King Kong as a model. He kept saying, let's make it like King Kong. Let's build up to the wall. Let's build up the anticipation. I agree with that whole approach, but still, get to the goddamn pace already. Jesus Christ. Get to the meat and potatoes once again. Yeah. It's like, you know.
Well, awards, Jordan. So this movie won Academy Awards for visual effects, best sound mixing, best sound editing.
Well earned, for sure. Absolutely.
Well earned. This was a masterpiece of, and to Peter Jackson's credit in the studio, just a masterpiece of, and like I said, I think it holds up today of effects. But I think the big miss here is Naomi Watts should have been nominated for Best Actress. That's a powerful performance against a green screen that you believe every second of, and it's not easy to act on that level in front of a green screen.
I agree, and this is before we've seen this is way before Disney and Mandalorian had what they call the stagecraft process, where you actually can see things in front of you. This is still blue screen, green screen. These people are acting to nothing, essentially, except for ping pong balls as a reference, possibly.
Maybe Andy Serkis sitting in a green onesie with.
I
some
do
ping
know.
pong
Yeah,
balls.
she was. I did look at some behind the scenes that she is acting towards Andy Serkis a few times. He's there as a reference for her eye line. He's still way off. He's not. There's no intimacy there.
Yeah, I thought I heard that she filmed some of her sequences with him there.
A lot of times,
physically, and then later on not, for whatever reason. So
yeah, exactly.
You know how these movies are, like they're not always in the same place at the same time.
I saw at one point she's actually got a green tube around her for the finger, doubling as Kong even. I mean, that's how, but yeah, you're right. She's acting against hardly anything. Talking about just having to use your imagination.
Absolutely touching. I'm just striking how great she is. And I'm being absolutely serious. I think she should have been definitely nominated, but no. Reese Witherspoon had to win for I Walk the Line that year.
Wow.
But Jordan, if you'll recall, this was 2005, right?
Yeah.
The 2005 Oscars. Crash won that year for Best Picture.
Crash? Was it Crash?
Over Brokeback.
Oh, damn.
And that's just like, and people have opinions about that to this day. So in my heart, Naomi Watts won the Oscar that year. I mean, honestly. Nothing against Reese or all the other great actresses who were nominated, but no. Creating a performance from nothing.
There was a deleted scene from this movie too, where she's got a picture of Kong in the back of her closet, that she stares at every now and then. No, I just made that up.
So anyway, I think overall we've kind of said everything I want to say, but Peter Jackson overindulged in places, but there is real movie magic here, man.
Absolutely. I mean, Peter Jackson is no slouch as a director. He's got a grand vision on things. Even if you look back at his early stuff, he's got a grand vision. Even he does a lot with a little.
Yeah.
But and obviously he was just like, clearly with this movie, he was like, this is my chance and I am not going to fuck it up. I'm going to milk it all the way.
He was like a little kid, just giddy with excitement, and he ate all the candy.
This is for me. This is for the Kong fans.
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm curious though. I saw that there was a lot of stuff that he was doing when he was prepping this movie, where he was doing a lot of stop motion experiments to see what it was like back then to do effects back then with his crew, where he had his crew working. And I would like to see all of that stuff more so.
I think he actually recreated the spider crab sequence that was omitted from the original in black and white. I think that's on one of the Blu-rays.
He did, yeah. I watched a lot of that, and then I kind of wonder what it would have been like if he had not wanted to push the envelope so much with effects. Although I get what mindset he was in. Probably after Lord of the Rings, he was like, "No, I've got this company here, and we made Golem." So let's fucking use it. But I still kind of wonder what it'd been like if he had gone back old school with this movie and done it, using stop motion, or even the Phil Tippett famous Go Motion for that matter.
I mean, Jordan, Kong. It just doesn't compare to, I see where you're going with that. It just doesn't compare to CGI. It just doesn't. Sorry. I mean, it would have been an interesting experiment.
And a smaller running time at the same time.
It would have been way more expensive to do that than even computer effects. But anyway, Jordan, this movie cost $207 million. God
dang.
So that's a pretty big budget film. Yeah.
Where does it all go?
I guess that big Adrian Brody money. You got to pay his ass to come and film for a week.
Catering was like $5 million, wasn't it?
Probably. But the box office, I think, total had a slow start, but built momentum in a big year, Jordan.
Yeah,
2005 was a heavy year.
The Revenge of the Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith, yeah. But I think Kong came near the end of the year, right? That was what the...
So, yeah. Let's see. Number one was Revenge of the Sith. Then Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Boom. War of the Worlds, that movie from Steven Spielberg. Chronicles of Narnia.
I thought I heard, though, that Kong was not as successful as Universal hoped, though, at the same time.
It was like number 11 that year.
Yeah, because it did cost a lot of money. That was the thing, even for that.
It cost a lot of money, but it made $562.3 million. So that's pretty decent. That's a lot of money, but a big investment on that. So.
And Peter Jackson never worked again after this movie.
I don't know.
No.
Never.
No, I just made that up.
Yeah, no. He went on to make other movies, but I think this was one of his. I mean, he makes films that are personal to him, and it shows. And I do think. God, I just do think that having the love for the subject to really develop that relationship between Kong and Anne eclipses all the movie's failures.
There clearly was love here when he made the movie. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's one thing you got to love about Peter Jackson.
And it's worth sitting through all the excess to get to just the really tender moments. And I think it elevates this film a lot. So, Jordan, what kind of rating do you give this movie?
That's a good question. Out of 10 bananas on Skull Island, I give it.
You could do better than that, Jordan. Come on. Bananas.
I couldn't think of a rating system before this. It was clever enough.
Okay. Well, whatever.
Okay. I'll, out of 10 skulls, I still give it. I give it 7 out of 10 skulls on Skull Island.
Yeah,
because it's still a well-made movie. It's Peter Jackson. He's no slouch. My biggest, like I said before, biggest complaint is the pacing of this movie. Yeah, I think it would have been just as fine, just as great at like 2 hours and 5 minutes. like the original movie.
I agree.
I wonder if there's a fan cut out there even once again where like somebody chopped this down to even 90 minutes, you know.
Somebody cuts out all of Adrian Brody's scenes.
They edit him out completely. I mean, you could actually come to think of it.
I used to hate on him hard for this movie. I watched it again, and he wasn't that bad. He was just, like I said, miscast, or his character shouldn't have been there. Little things derailed this movie, but not completely. Like just the force of Kong and Naomi Watts' performance just makes this a memorable film. I give it, same as you actually, independently, a 7 out of 10 for its strengths, ignoring its weaknesses. Slow motion, unnecessary typewriter scenes.
Oh yeah.
To build dramatic effect. Can we dial back on that?
Yeah, was that an outtake from Bram Stoker's Dracula or something? Or did they leave the camera rolling when Adrian Brody was typing nothing for something? Or I don't know.
It was Adrian Brody's idea. It's clumsy. There's some clumsy moments, but anyway, meet the Feebles moments. Anyway, all right, Jordan. That's this movie, King Kong. And next time we will probably talk about some other film, maybe not an Adrian Brody film, or a miscast Jack Black movie, or hopefully a movie that's under 3 hours long. Why don't we try that?
Oh, hopefully. Wow. After this one, I'm like, man, I felt like it took like 2 days to review this one.
Yeah, I know.
Because, you know, you have to make time for this stuff. You know,
I did watch it over 2 days.
And it took me 2 days to watch Kong. I was just like, man, I was watching a mini series, but that's my biggest complaint about the movie.
Yeah.
Overall, no, it's not a badly made movie. I never thought it was badly made or just a horrible movie, but yeah, it's just got a few too many characters. And yeah, a little bit excessive. I can see where Peter Jackson was coming from when he made this movie, though. It was coming from his heart at the same time. And, you know, he was probably coming from a place at this point where he's just like, fuck you, Hollywood. I'm going to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
You know.
He was playing with his toys for a little too long, even after his mama was calling him.
Yeah, this is his time to just, you know, rake in everything and, you know, take a bath in the money, so to speak.
Yeah. All right, Jordan. Well, it's been great talking to you about movies.
Great talking to you about this one, King Kong from 2005.
Yeah. And everyone, thank you so much for listening. We hope that you have as much fun listening as we do talking, and we hope you've enjoyed this discussion about King Kong. And check out some of our other episodes.
Absolutely. Press like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Check out our Patreon account. No.
Oh, do we have one? Oh.
Do we? Not yet. Let's start one. Anyway, Jordan, this has been...
The robots took my podcast. And this movie took 3 hours of my life. 3 hours and 7 minutes.
All trailers, clips, music, or any other copyrighted material are used sparingly, edited from their original forms, and used for the purposes of criticism, discussion, commentary, and education about these fine films.